I'm Dana Jacobson from CBS Saturday Morning. Welcome to The Dish. Hot from the oven, we are indulging in freshly baked bread today. We stopped by San Francisco's Tartine Bakery to learn the secret ingredient to the most delicious and nutritious sourdough. And we visit a nationally recognized New Mexico bakery that started as a pandemic hobby. But we begin in the English countryside with the father-daughter duo behind the Orange Bakery. Imtiaz Tayyab breaks bread with Al and Kitty Tate as they share recipes and their heartwarming origin story.
It may just be the smallest town in England, but residents of Watlington will tell you one of the greatest things to come here since sliced bread is the Orange Bakery, where Al and Kitty Tate, a father and daughter duo, whose bake shop has developed a cult following as they experiment with ingredients to make the perfect bake.
This is wild garlic pesto.
Wild garlic pesto.
We went foraging yesterday for the wild garlic.
You foraged for it?
We did. The first time we foraged for it, we managed to pick grass.
Okay.
Instead of pesto.
It's got quite a kick.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that is so good. You can definitely taste the garlic.
Yeah, you're not going to go kissing anyone afterwards.
The Tate's journey to master bakers started in what was one of Kitty's darkest periods. In 2018, at just 14 years old, she fell into a deep depression.
I couldn't get out of bed and I couldn't function and I couldn't eat, and there were all these different things going on in my head that I just didn't understand and I didn't know why they were there.
I mean, Dad, this must have been so hard as a parent to see in your child.
Yeah, it was horrifying, quite simply.
Kitty's depression was so crippling she couldn't go to school anymore, so Al left his job at Oxford University to care for her.
So, what helped you get through the days?
One day I watched Dad make a loaf of bread, and he got a bowl and he mixed flour, water, salt, a tiny bit of yeast, and he put a tea towel over the top. And then the next morning he took the tea towel off and he put it into a tin and he baked it. But it was this really lovely golden loaf, and it was so simple, but it just made me feel safe. And that in that moment, really, I fell head over heels in love with bread.
A love that led Kitty to bake loaf after loaf after loaf. A skill which quickly inspired her to launch her very first pop-up.
And about half an hour before the pop-up, the whole town was just empty. It was so nerve-wracking and slightly heartbreaking. And then I opened the door and there was about 60 people stretching all the way down the high street. And we sold out of everything within, I think it was 28 minutes.
Yeah. Wow. 28 minutes, and what was going through your mind?
Not a lot. But at the end I suddenly realised that I could do this.
This wasn't your calling.
Yeah, this wasn't something that was helping me get through depression and anxiety. This is what I wanted to do.
So Kitty and Al turned to Kickstarter with this one-of-a-kind, very orange-themed fundraising video.
Within 48 hours we had hit our target.
But they also needed a business plan, and who better to ask for advice than the founders of San Francisco's beloved Tartine Bakery.
So I managed to track down Chad Robertson and his wife, Liz Pruitt. So I started to write letters just saying that I love their book, how much it helped me. And then one day I looked at my Instagram and I saw that they were following me. And then Chad sent me a message, and Liz Pruitt, when I did the crowdfunding, put it onto her Instagram story. And I'm still so thankful to them.
Gratitude, which inspired Kitty and Al to author their own book of recipes called Bread Song. A title inspired by the snap, crackle, and pop of bread fresh out of the oven. One of their most popular breads is made using one of Kitty's favorite ingredients, miso, the Japanese fermented soybean paste.
And then one day I was like, okay, I love it so much, why not just fold it into the dough?
Yeah. And it's
my
also
favourite bread.
really beautiful. Like, you can actually see it in the crumb.
You get this amazing red miso swirls. Look, you get like a little patch here, and it makes the bread incredibly moist too.
Right. I mean, miso and a loaf of bread baked, it's just not something I would ever even think about. You could just see that right through there. That beautiful miso just layered through.
Kitty's sense of humor is baked into several of her creations, including these.
Here we've got corgi butter butts.
Corgi butter butt. As in butt.
But
The
as
butt
in,
of a corgi.
but
Because you have a corgi.
because I have a corgi, so I have a corgi.
The queen's beloved breed of dog.
Exactly. So it's this really soft, fluffy brioche, and then with a bit of pearl sugar, which is like rock salt, but like rock sugar, and chocolate chips for the paws. I'll take a cheek. It's like a cracker.
Oh, it is. There you go. Hey. How cute is that?
So cute.
This is so good. I mean, it's just good. It's chewy, it's sweet. The sugar just really gives it a nice crunch to it. I mean, just, it also kind of tastes a bit like childhood, right?
For Kitty, the crippling depression she endured as a 14-year-old will never be entirely gone, an awareness she finds strength in.
I love me and bubbly.
This whole journey started because of mental health. What do you want to say to those who might be struggling?
It can get better, and I don't know exactly when, but I know that it will. And actually, all the stuff that is you're going through, it does make you stronger because it means that you can understand others. It's just something that is extra, like an extra flavour to the bread.
Up next, a California baker fighting the low-carb diet trend. This is The Dish. At San Francisco's Tartine Bakery, Chad Robertson is making bread packed with delicious nutrients. John Blackstone gets hands-on in the kitchen to learn the secret to a healthier loaf.
I can help the next person in line.
At San Francisco's popular Tartine Bakery, the smell of fresh bread can draw a crowd.
As long as I'm making bread, there's always something new for me to learn.
Chad Robertson, Tartine's co-owner and chief bread baker, is part of a movement to get Americans to stop thinking about bread as a guilty pleasure by changing the way it's made.
What most of this country's been eating is a really refined, fast processed bread that it doesn't have much flavor and it doesn't have much nutrition.
To make better bread, he uses something that for now is hard to find in America: freshly milled flour that is not stripped of grain's vital nutrients.
Milling fresh flour is just like grinding fresh coffee or fresh spices. It's a much fresher, sort of stronger flavor and aroma. Depending on what grains we're using and what kind of bread we're making, will give you this very flavorful, really digestible, highly nutritious loaf of bread in the end.
Now, you may be thinking Robertson is just another San Francisco foodie pushing another artisanal fad. But he's just one of a group of bakers around the country changing the way they make bread, and science is on their side.
You'll recognize the sort of all-purpose flour, your normal sort of pure white flour.
David Killalay is a scientist at Children's Hospital Oakland Research Institute. So in the white flour that we're accustomed to, when you tested that, there's
not much there. It's mostly sugar.
All-purpose white flour was developed during industrialization to extend shelf life. But to make it last months or even years, two main components of the wheat must be discarded: the bran and the germ. And that means losing most of the vitamins, minerals, and fiber.
Looking at the iron, copper, zinc, calcium, and there's a really big difference when you go from all-purpose, which doesn't have very many of those minerals, to the whole grain, which has much more of it. Sometimes double for zinc, 4 times the amount of zinc, 6 to 8 times the amount of manganese, and all of those minerals are essential for health.
But the author of the best-selling book Wheat Belly, Dr. William Davis, told CBS This Morning that replacing white flour products with whole grains is simply replacing something harmful with something slightly less harmful. And it doesn't mean that whole grains are good for you. Bread has had a pretty bad reputation for a while.
Yes. Right now it's definitely looked upon suspiciously, but at least in my opinion, a lot of that has to do with the way that the bread is made. If we could get people eating whole grains, we would do a lot to address the actual missing nutrients in our population.
But getting more whole grains into the American diet means changing the way flour is milled, distributed, and stored. Chad Robertson is working on that, encouraging the development of more local small batch flour mills.
Coffee is a really good example that I always go back to. I mean, 20 years ago, would you think that everyone would be grinding coffee fresh in their house? all over the country, people know what fresh ground coffee tastes like, and that was a relatively quick transition.
With the opening of a San Francisco restaurant, The Manufactory, Robertson hopes to be part of a similar transition to a day when it's not necessary to go to a high-end bakery to get bread this good and this good for you.
And really all you have to do is taste it, and then it's pretty easy after that.
Crispy on the outside and chewy on the inside. There is nothing like a New York City bagel. A former lawyer teaches people worldwide how to make the perfect New York-style bagel. As first seen on CBS Sunday Morning, Martha Teichner takes us on a journey from New Jersey to Sweden.
Oh my.
Look at that.
Very, very crunchy.
I wish I could just hear it. Have a bite.
It seems downright cruel
See that?
that Beth George has to teach her clients to make bagels over Zoom instead of in person.
They're wonderful.
Yeah, it's an art.
A client in Mexico?
I'm from Bangalore, India.
Bagels in India?
Now I'm going to show you the oven. Ready?
Who knew that a woman in Rwanda might want to open a bagel shop?
Have you ever seen a mixer this big?
No, never.
Beth George practiced law for decades before starting BYOB Bagels.
It can be your own boss bagels. It's also bake your own bagels, and build your own business.
Bagels were brought to the United States by Eastern European Jews in the 19th century. How did a Lebanese Christian end up one of the world's few go-to bagel experts? Because of her son Spencer. As a kid, he was diagnosed with serious food allergies.
When I realized that Spencer could not eat regular wheat anymore, I said to him, "What do you miss the most?" And he said, "Bagels." Ta-da! There's the bagel moment, okay?
Beth George taught herself how to make bagels out of spelt, an ancient relative of wheat Spencer could eat, and went into business, joining forces with Frank Morrow, who sells bagel and bakery equipment. He convinced her to stop making spelt bagels and start teaching people how to make the perfect New York-style bagel.
We like our bagels in New York, crispy on the outside, chewy on the inside.
For the record, her commercial kitchen is in New Jersey.
It's all about the ingredients. It's the water, obviously, but it doesn't have to be New York water. It just has to be good water. So you can make a bagel outside of New York, a very good one.
She enlisted me, I think, to demonstrate that a bagel
It's okay if it falls on the ground.
is not a piece of cake.
I was doing pretty well for a while.
Okay.
Did you know bagels have to be boiled or steamed before they're baked? Don't forget the schmear, Yiddish for what you spread on your bagel. And the lox, the smoked salmon. Goldilocks Bagels outside of Boston. Yes, Goldilocks is one of 40 or so businesses Beth George has helped launch. Lindsay Gaudette was a business analyst for a high-tech company. Her husband, Ed Thill, is a chef.
Right away, Beth put us to work. She's like, you know, go weigh out this tub of water and this much flour, and you do this, which meant it was boot camp, and we got to learn it.
I call Beth my bagel whisperer, and I call her my bagel mama. There's an umbilical cord that goes across the sea from her to me.
All the way to Gothenburg, Sweden, where transplanted New Yorker Elizabeth Rubin in 2018 opened Jimmy and Jones New York, named for her father and his twin sister.
In Sweden, they had what looked like a bagel, but it was just bread with a hole. It was like an imposter.
Now they've got the real thing.
Still ahead, how one couple turned their pandemic passion into a successful business. We end with a sweet success story. A husband and wife team turned their pandemic hobby, making fresh baked goods, into a nationally recognized business with help from their community. Janet Shamlian visited the New Mexico bakery to witness their teamwork.
When baking bread became a pandemic passion, Nobu Mizushima was there for it. But it wasn't just a flash in the pan for the Albuquerque man and his wife Yuko. As lockdown closed businesses everywhere, the couple decided to open one and go pro.
Yeah, doing the farmers market on weekend, so customer asking us where can we buy the bread weekday. So we are thinking like, oh my God, we should open the business.
In Albuquerque's trendy Nob Hill neighborhood filled with late night clubs and restaurants, the couple bet on early mornings, opening an artisan bakery, Ihatov Bread and Coffee, in an old Arby's fast food joint.
The lines on Saturday were out the door, because there was nothing like this. And it made for community.
Neighbors were on board from the start.
Coffee in a 4-here cup.
Supporting a Kickstarter campaign to the tune of $16,000, a lot of dough, for the couple's dream come true.
How important was the Kickstarter to getting you launched here?
It was so important. I think without Kickstarter, we couldn't make it. We couldn't open the business.
Now the store regularly sells out of its sourdough, buttermilk biscuits, croissants, and some really nice buns. Nobu, who learned his craft at another bakery, is the creative, fusing Japanese and European techniques.
Like a package?
Yes.
But insists he doesn't run the show.
Oh, you're good.
What is it like working with your wife as a coworker?
Yeah, actually, I enjoy that.
Who's the boss?
She's boss.
Your husband says you're the boss. Is that true?
I don't know. I wanna.
Teamwork, the ingredient that's made this little bakery a story of pandemic prosperity.
I know they opened right when everything shut down, and yet they've been hugely successful. That shows just how good they are.
How about great? Ihatov Bakery and Coffee was named a James Beard semi-finalist, one of the highest honors in the food world.
We were shocked. I think at first Nobu wasn't even necessarily aware of what the James Beard Award was. And when we talked about what that meant, he was like, oh, really? Wow.
Rising to the occasion, a legend in the baking.
For more stories like these and live coverage of breaking news 24/7, stream us right here on CBS News. I'm Dana Jacobson. We'll see you next time for another helping of The Dish.